Anthony Burnell is finding himself in just a little bit of trouble. This is the chief of staff, of course, for one Jill. I gotta be sure. Dr. Jill Biden's chief of staff, Anthony Burnell, is now getting called up by Congress because he was supposed to testify. They get some questions, fair questions, shall we say, in light of how Joe Biden seemed, and they want these questions answered, but Burnell has no interest apparently in actually showing up for these questions. And so Congress now is in a position where they have to subpoena him. And this is exactly what we saw Comer do today, putting out this subpoena. Do you see this? I got a copy of it right here. And along with a little tweet, making sure that everybody knew just exactly how much trouble Anthony Burnell might actually be in. Signed, sealed, delivered, Jill Biden's work husband. Whew, little dig there. Anthony Burnell must appear before GOP oversight. Let this subpoena send a clear message to Biden's inner circle. We will stop at nothing, he writes, to expose the truth about Joe Biden's decline and unauthorized use of the auto pen. So again, this is the guy that was kind of running the thing behind the scenes because, if you're Dr. Jill's chief of staff, you got it going on. I mean, Dr. Jill had access to the president unlike anybody else, right? So if you have access to Dr. Jill, then you're the bomb. And this was Anthony Burnell. And so the word on the street, and you don't even have to go to Project Veritas and their undercover cameras for this. I had heard this. Everybody had heard this. In fact, even the New York Times, I think, put this one out. Anthony Burnell was running the show. So if Anthony Burnell was running the show, what was he okaying all the time? Was he actually Mr. Autopen himself? Was he effectively acting like the president? I mean, I don't think we elected one Anthony Burnell. We didn't elect Dr. Jill. We elected, as a nation, Joe Biden. So if Joe Biden was incapacitated and for whatever reason was not up to the task, why is it that they didn't come forward with some of this information sooner? I mean, we knew it. I knew it. You knew it. I mean, remember the Where's Jackie? Jackie upstairs knew it. Okay. Jackie, by the way, God rest her soul, had passed away in a car accident months before. This is a congressional representative that he tried to thank while on stage. Where's Jackie?
And I want to thank all of you here, for including bipartisan elected officials like Representative Governor, Senator Braun, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie. Are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here to help make this.
Yeah. And then there was this moment. This was actually pretty telling for me because he slowed down so significantly, right? He slowed down when he was at G7. He tried to wander off to look at the parachuters, and Georgia Maloney, she's amazing. She caught wind of it right out of the corner of her eye, and she went over and she rounded him up and brought him back to the cameras. And if you look at this, if you're listening to this on Spotify, thank you for that. If you're watching on Spotify video, thank you for that. If you're looking live here as we are on YouTube at this moment, you can see how slow he is to put those sunglasses on. And that tells you something, guys. I'll tell you, it actually tells you a lot because and we've talked about this before. If you've had a loved one that's been through that, you recognize some of those signs and symptoms. But one of the most alarming ones was for me when he was doing this economic event and he seemed to be falling asleep. If you look at how slow he is and what he's doing there, he says, oh gosh, I shouldn't take questions. I'm going to get in trouble if I take questions. And then he doesn't quite seem to know what to do. This to me was really, really telling. You see him?
I better not start the questions. I'll get in trouble.
What's your message for Super Tuesday voters? Everyone please move this way. Super Tuesday, do you have a message for voters?
Thanks, come on. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Unbelievable. And he's just sort of staring off into space. He looks ill. He looks like he might actually pass out or that he might vomit in this particular moment. I mean, this was just unbelievable to me. So there were all of these things, okay, pointing to troubles all along, and yet for whatever reason, everybody was there encouraging him. I mean, for goodness sakes, after that abomination of a debate, what did we hear from Dr. Jill?
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the... And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Lied!
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Now, her chief of staff is being subpoenaed, and he could actually find himself in jail. I mean, this is serious stuff, you guys. And the reason it's so serious is because do not forget, Peter Navarro went to jail. Steve Bannon went to jail. That's never the first option. But, when you get subpoenaed and you're supposed to testify, and this is, you think what you want about Bannon or Navarro and taking one for the team. I mean, the reality is they chose not to testify. So when you choose not to testify, you go to jail. Unless, of course, you're Loretta, what's her name? Remember the woman, the IRS? Was it Lois? Anyway, unless it was during the Obama administration and you have a split situation and the president can get you off, but you're looking at a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican president. So that means, Mr. Burnell, if you choose to not testify, then you're actually going to find yourself in the slammer. Okay? I'm sorry, but that's how it works. It's pretty basic. And, if you have any questions about it, you can call Navarro, you can call Bannon, and they'll explain it. So you're going to have to show up and you're going to have to answer these questions unless you want to actually be behind bars. And so that perhaps is the option that he's now looking at. I think it's really sort of just amazing that all this was going down and nobody was daring to ask the questions. I mean, we did here on this show, right? I've been telling you ever since 2020, you can't run that guy. Hey, Dems, if you had a couple brain cells, maybe you'd actually tune into the Trish Regan show and you'd find out what the other side is saying, and two, what would actually be sensible, because for whatever reason, you had the emperor has no clothes thing going on and you kept insisting he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. In fact, I'm going to quote MSNBC, Joe Scarborough, who told us he was the best Biden ever. Oh yeah, and the Brzezinskis have known him forever, and I've known him forever, and he's the best Biden ever, except that he can barely stand, he can barely walk, he can barely put his sunglasses on when he's at G7, so I'm telling you, that's not the best Biden ever. No way, Jose, all right? So stuff went down. The guy could only be up, how many hours a day he only worked and how many vacation days? I think he took the most vacation of any president. So he wasn't all there. And you got to ask yourself, what were they doing behind the scenes? And how do we make sure that that doesn't happen again? Both sides, right? If Donald Trump suddenly came down with what seemed to be some form of significant mental decline. And by the way, the same exact team, they were always going on about how Trump had declined so badly when their own president, their own team member had declined so badly. They were refusing to recognize it. If he was suffering from mental decline, obviously you would want JD Vance to step in. I mean, hey, look, I get it. Nobody wanted Kamala. Believe me, nobody wanted Kamala. So that was a tough lever to pull. I get it, okay? But who was this guy, Anthony Burnell, that we did not elect, who was Dr. Jill's chief of staff, calling all the shots, telling him to continue running when clearly he shouldn't have been running? Meanwhile, here's another question. What exactly was going down with all those pardons? Because some people, including the representative from Tennessee, Tim Burchett, are asking whether or not there were any pardons for sale. They had a history of that in Tennessee. He knows it well. And so, maybe he's a little guarded because of that, but he wants to know whether or not there was any money going on back and forth, because you're talking about more than 8,000 pardons in one day. I mean, that's a lot of signatures, right? Well, Biden wasn't signing these things, guys. So how did these things get approved? Was Burnell the guy that did it? Or did you have low-level staffers, as Tim Burchett is suggesting here on my friend Benny's show? Let's take a listen. He said this maybe about 10 days ago or so, but I think it's relevant in light of what we're learning. Listen.
Got staffers. I would look, Tennessee has had a history of this. We had a governor several governors ago. He's since passed away, but he sold pardons. You can look it up. His name was Ray Blanton. It made national news. And I mean, they wrote songs, Pardon Me, Ray. And it was a cash for clemency deal. And that's exactly what I think you're going to find out. You're going to find staffers that were able to take forms, get them and run them through some sort of bogus legal system. And then they auto-pinned them. And there's probably people out on the street that shouldn't be, but somebody got rich off that. And, wow. And I think those people, I hate to say it, but you'll see something probably horrible happen to some of those people because it goes up the chain. This is a very dangerous town to play games in. I have no direct proof of that, but I'm just talking about history. And if you got somebody making $100,000 a year and somebody offers you $250,000 in some safety deposit box.
So then you take it? I don't know. So two kind of things to think about here. One, did you have low-level staffers that were getting paid to push things through? Two, was Anthony Burnell running the country? You know, the whole time we're like, who's in charge? Like, really? Who's in charge? Because it clearly wasn't Joe. I mean, he didn't seem to know what day it was, right? In many, many situations. And that was all brought forward in that now infamous debate. And everybody had to sort of eat their words. And even Jake Tapper, I mean, well, gosh, he's a commercial little enterprise if I ever saw one, right? I mean, he was the guy who was like best Biden ever, along with Scarborough. He tore Lara Trump to shreds because she dared to say that Joe seemed to be declining, and he accused her of making fun of people with a stutter. She said, I didn't know Joe had a stutter. I don't think that's a stutter. I think that's mental decline. And Jake went on and on. We've played the soundbite here. You've seen that, okay? And then Jake turns around and says, oh gosh, that debate was bad. That debate was really, really bad. And now he's got to go. Of course, his buddy George Clooney must have told him. And then fast forward, he writes a book about it, about how the media didn't know what they were doing. Gee, we could have told you that, Jake. So here's the question. Who was in charge? Was it Barack Obama behind the scenes? I'm beginning to think not. I'm beginning to think it was this guy. Dr. Jill, right? She controlled access. Think about that. She was the access point to the president. And if you need the president to kind of sign off on anything, okay, anything, even just a nod or a thumbs up, you would have had to go through her, which meant you had to go through him. So there are a lot of really important questions that need to be answered right now.